Hello, and welcome back to Tales from the Grim on this fine Sunday. And welcome to the Skychasers final finale! You may think we were done last week, but apparently not. And we are back here today for an extra couple of hours to round out our narrative. Big thank you to all the cast for agreeing to be here today, and to all of you for showing up in chat. We appreciate you muchly. So, without further ado, because time is marching on and we have little time to play with today, we rejoin our investigators. Half of the team piled into an FBI car. Half of the team confused in a Las Vegas motel room. Well, let's go to Dr. Nash and Maggie Davis in that motel room. You've just returned to your bodies from a scene at a home you didn't recognize. Your team were there. They were in trouble. Maggie, your arm was sliced into by Dr. Rhonda Nash just minutes ago. Was it minutes? Maybe a little longer than that. And it throbs. But you disconnected it. Whatever it was that was in your arm, that connection was broken. Dr. Nash. You stare at the man that has just kicked in the door of the motel room. The preacher that Robert had been in contact with. OB, you look at the two women. You'd heard their voices and the gunshot. What do you all do?
Well, after I've returned back to the room after fetching towels from mine, I go to hand them over to the one farthest away from, not the one with the wound, but the one who's trying to treat the lady with the wounds, and ask, I don't know what you federal's policies are on working with each other, but what in the blue blazes is going on in here?
And Dr. Nash grabs the towels out of his hands and says, "There's really no time to explain." Starts wrapping Maggie's arm up and wrapping it tightly around her arm to try and compress the wound. "I saw you with Captain Dabrowski. Do you know where he's gone? Do you know how to get in touch with him?"
I don't know for sure where he'd gone. I thought I overheard he and some others talking about going over to his place or something like that, but I don't know for sure if that's where they are at this time of night right now.
"We need him. We need the rest of our crew. I don't know who you are, sir, and I don't know who we can trust, but we need help."
My name is Oscar Beauregard Daya. Everyone refers to me just as OB, and I've been working off and on with Robert and some of the other members of the teams he's with for the past 5 years out here, mostly keeping an eye out, reporting things, strange things as they occur and stuff like that. I presume you're part of that chaser team as well?
"That's right. So can you please help us?" And she's holding onto Maggie's arm tightly and looking at Maggie and trying to keep eye contact with her, make sure that Maggie, stays conscious and stays with her.
I reach over and start helping with having dealt with enough gunshots with the moonshiners back in Kentucky and some of the strange things that happen in the streets of Vegas. I know how to pack a wound, so I start helping with that process.
Maggie is just in tears as the both of you are, trying to wrap up her arm, grabbing onto Dr. Nash and just like, I'm so sorry. I'm really sorry. I shot Chris. Oh, God, he was on the floor. He was bleeding. He wasn't moving. And then Robert, they were arresting him. Oh, God. If anything's happened to Chris, I'll never forgive myself, Doctor.
Maggie, you can't focus on that right now. You focus on you. You focus on me. You keep an eye on me, and you just keep breathing, honey, all right?
And you can see as she's holding on to you tightly, she's kind of blinking through that pain as she tries not to think about the slash across her arm. She's like, you cut it though, you got it. It's the cable. And she almost instinctively goes to kind of reach to point at it and, draws back.
Dr. Nash stops her. We don't want to be unwrapping her arm. It's cut. And you're back with us. Whatever it was controlling you, but you're here now.
It was him. The man. The voice. The first voice.
Are you still hearing him?
No. But it was him. I swear it was him.
You're hearing voices?
Thoughts.
Kind of voices.
Sometimes it's nothing. Sometimes it's just passing thoughts that people have. You can look. She tries to explain, but between the blood loss and the pain, she just can't find the words to try and make it make sense in a way that she doesn't feel like she just sounds crazy.
While this is going on, Obi reaches in one of his inside suit pockets. He's got 2 different vials in there. One has extra virgin pure olive oil that he uses for anointing for praying. The other one is actually a vial of holy water that he got from one of his street ministry friends from the Catholic diocese. He grabs the holy water, puts a drop on his finger, and places that drop on her forehead. He wants to test to see if these voices or if this is something that he's seen in the demonic realm or something else is going on, knowing that she'll react if holy water gets in contact with her. Pardon me a moment while I do a little of my specialty work. And as I do that, I start praying over her just to make sure after hearing all the stuff going on, he doesn't know if he's fighting something demonic or something else, but he's not taking any chances. He's seen too much. What happens?
Make an occult roll for me. And Maggie, if you can make a constitution roll for me, please.
Yeah. Nope. That's a fail.
Okay. And I've lost my roll 20. What did you roll, Obi?
I got a 10. I got an extreme success.
Perfect. So as you put out your hand with that drop of water on it, and you begin to pray, you see Maggie's face contort in pain. And Maggie, you feel a wave of just nausea and lightheadedness wash over you. But you watch closely, Obi. You try to figure out if it's your contact, her injury, if there is that presence of something darker, more sinister here. You don't see any shift in the eyes. That would be the first telltale. Demons have trouble hiding their eyes. That's the first place you see through the window to the soul. Maggie's eyes are just wide with pain. Looking down to that injury is bleeding, clearly, is soaking through the rags and towels. And although she shifts...
If this was demonic healing by now. All right, something strange is going on, but it's not something... I can't even explain this. This goes even beyond what I've seen in the past. Something's inside you, girl, but I can't figure out what it is. But something that we don't... Something normal's not going on inside there.
Dr. Nash had noticed the physical shift in Maggie when he touched her. She thinks that it would be best if perhaps... Mr. Dyer, we appreciate your expertise, but perhaps if you can go locate Captain Dabrowski or Miss Davis here was waiting on a delivery, perhaps you can look into that.
I'll head right down. I'm expecting something else from Mabel anyway. I'll be right back.
She draws Maggie a little closer to her and continues to put compression on her arm. It'll be all right, Maggie.
Just, I need to know how Chris is and how the captain is. I was responsible for that.
It wasn't you. No one will hold you responsible. Whoever put this thing in you, they're responsible. And that's what we're going to find out.
With that, let us shift to the car as it barrels along the freeway towards Vegas. The bright lights of the city staining the sky yellow-pink with the glow. Remind me, who is driving?
I think I am.
I think so. Robert, you are accustomed to driving at night and driving under stressful circumstances. A car is much easier than a plane. So you are not too distracted as you make your way, watching the mirrors for a tail, watching your passengers. What are you thinking about and what do you do?
Just wanting to get to the rest of the crew at the hotel, I think. Don't really know what else to do. We've got the family in the back and Ghost Betty and Chris. How is Chris compared to Bobby Jr.? Again, like, have they swapped back? Are they still switched? Kind of what's the situation, I guess, from my perspective?
Chris, from your perspective, Bobby Jr. is alert, confused a little, trying to keep himself to himself, perhaps. We'll ask Greg in a moment exactly what Bobby is up to, as Chris, to you, remains unconscious, spread out across the seat. Your team have done what they can to tend the bullet wound, but it's difficult in a moving car with no supplies. Greg, what is Bobby up to?
Just taking everything in. Chris is keeping his attention on everyone else in the car, but his mind is running the numbers. But whether it is a circumstance of being where he is in the body of somebody else, everything has a beat to it now. Everything has a rhythm, where normally he would just run through numbers with a erratic, chaotic type of sequence. Now everything has a pulse, steady, a beat. Sometimes it's quick, sometimes it's slow, but everything is measured. Everything has its place, its moment, its strike. And in his mind, the music has begun to take over a bit of the math.
And as you look to Betty, there is a syncopated rhythm that vibrates from her. Betty, you're incorporeal again. You're present, but you're not entirely here.
Now that she's back in this form, is Betty starting to remember this previous time that this happened to her?
Yes, but your mind is shaping it like photographic stills, like negatives on a strip. Glimpses of key moments, but not those in between. You do remember the last time you were in this form, though, clearly. Of being in the cell with Maggie, of finding Rhonda, seeing Chris in his cell, then being a plane, or being the driving force of a plane. It was hard to distinguish your energy from that of the metal flying machine. And then the rebirth in the desert, the reformation.
Captain, What is the plan once we arrive at the motel?
Oh no. Just gotta group up with the team. I hope Maggie knows something.
And if there are any agents there?
Yeah. I don't know.
Is there anywhere besides the motel you know around here where we could gather ourselves?
Charlie, there's bound to be somewhere like that I might know.
I would say as a local, you can think of a number of places you could go.
Well, I imagine there's a number of motels. There's a church that takes homeless folk in.
It would also occur to you that perhaps a casino floor is one of the most anonymous places where people gamble easily. They're watched, but it only matters if they start to cheat.
Or we dive into one of the casino halls, just try and blend in.
Maybe a little bit of a hard sell with a woman, a child, an incorporeal woman, a man that's been shot.
Yeah. As long as we can meet up with Maggie and Rhonda, we'll figure something out.
How are you holding up?
That's a question to ask. Well, we're not being tailed, not as far as I can tell.
That's not what I asked.
Look, as good as this is, we don't really have time to figure this out right now. What's more important is that we get to the motel and we get in contact with the rest of our team.
All right. And Betsy's just going to be like, oh, and just sink back a bit. Just give the captain some space. And she thinks she'll probably just try and, because she doesn't know Chris is in Bobby Jr.'s body, right? So she's going to be like, this is going to be traumatic for the kid. I'm going to just sit and chat idly with Bobby Jr. for a while. Just asking him, so Bobby Jr., what was that record you were playing for your father earlier?
Doris Day, Greg.
Greg knows that.
Okay, I didn't know if you remembered or not.
I forget.
You forget.
It's been a traumatic night.
Wait, okay, so something's got a twig in his head. That doesn't sound like something a child would say.
Chris sees it through Bobby Jr.'s eyes. In the rearview mirror, he gets this look from the captain, like.
It was a. Sorry, it sounds like there's a traction rally outside my house. It was a traumatic night. Was it? What happened, Bobby Jr.?
Man burst in and attacked my family.
It's alright, Bobby. We don't need to talk about that now. And Dottie kind of puts a protective arm around Bobby. She feels something off, but she's more like confused why her son's being asked to recount something terrible that just happened that she would personally rather forget.
Mm-hmm. I'm sorry, Bobby.
Because Chris has said on several occasions that they make an excellent team. he will look at Betty and then look at the window of the car and go, and then he writes an abstract equation and then wipes it as soon as he writes it and looks back at her.
There's like a look of shock, confusion, and mild terror on Betty's face, but she will nod slowly and then just look out of the window as if she never saw anything.
Bobby, don't write on the window. And Dottie kind of takes your other hand and she holds both of your hands in your lap. You need to be a good boy. Stop distracting your father. And she like looks up in the windscreen, and Dottie's trying to communicate with Robert like, what the hell are we doing? What is going on? But just these wide eyes at her husband.
He gives a similar look back, to be fair. But he needs to focus, and he focuses on checking behind the vehicle and the rearview mirrors and the wing mirrors, checking as they head into Vegas, just checking the road.
Okay, and we will move back to the motel. Dr. Nash, can you roll a first aid or a medicine for me?
I can. Success.
You manage to staunch the bleeding fully and do basic first aid for Maggie's arm. Maggie manages to retain her consciousness and slowly gets more color back in her cheeks as you wait for OB to return. OB, down in the entranceway, Mabel is absent, but you see there is a note written out for you at the top of her crossword puzzle, and also a large box that is not normally in her little reception area.
I quickly read the note.
The note says, your contact called, Tony Ratticelli, underlined.
That's what I was afraid of. All right, I quickly reach down and slowly open the box.
Okay, you open the box, and inside there are a number of books, files. There are various dates and names on each of the files. These are like the manila envelope style, with a lot of different paperwork. The books themselves are black and handwritten and seem to be a collection of journals, although they don't make a lot of sense to you as you flick through. You do see on one of the pages, however, an illustration of the devil and a number of curious notes beside it. It's probable that this is the box for Maggie.
I quickly take a look at that one.
Looking through, you see it appears to be the work of a tarot card reader. You can see a number of different notes which seem to form everyday commentary in addition to prophecy, perhaps. A lot of abstract thoughts.
Well, the devil may not be involved, but they're definitely using the devil's toys in all this. So I quickly close the box up, grab the crossword, fill in 9 down with angels, and then I head back upstairs.
And you come in and you see Miss Davis in much better health than she was before. A little more color. Sat more upright. Her arm being cleaned and finished off by Dr. Rhonda Nash.
I believe this might be the package that you were all looking for.
Oh, the files. Maggie kind of very gently pushes Rhonda's hand out the way as she's finishing cleaning, where the cut comes all the way up to the shoulder, and gets up and just goes straight over to the box, taking it off of Obi. Thank you. She basically opens the box and starts pulling stuff out onto the bed. And when she sees the journals, she'll go, Doctor, do you remember when I was telling you about the woman with the tarot cards, and she just kind of hands you one of the journals as she starts going through the manila envelopes to see if there's one on her.
Mm-hmm. And Obi, you will notice a small handwritten note on lined paper flutter away as these various objects are pulled out.
Okay. I quickly slowly reach over and pick it up. Do I see anything in particular on it?
The note simply says, "No more favors. Good luck, Miss Davis."
I think this might be for one of you two. And I hand it over to Maggie.
She takes it and looks at it. Well, I think this is the last of our luck. Everything we do from here is just going to be on us. She puts the note, just kind of casually tosses it back into the box while just combing through these files. There's almost like a manicness about her as she's searching for something. She doesn't know what for, but she knows she'll know it when she sees it.
Okay, so with a manic approach, I'm going to ask you to roll with spot hidden, please.
Ooh. Extreme success.
Nice.
Okay. You go through, there are a number of envelopes marked with your names, but they don't appear to be complete files. This is what could be found. There are details, a psychiatric report for yourself on your return from Italy following the failed mission. There are also details regarding the rest of your associates on that mission, all presumed killed in action or missing in action.
She'll briefly scan over their names and information about them because it's been so long since she's had to remember them and really remember that mission and what she can remember of it. But she specifically she'll go to that psychiatric report, any report that might mention what's been done to her, because she gets the feeling that somebody knows from back at the facility after the plane. There's got to be something in one of these that explains what's going on.
The psychiatric report outlines amnesia, which the patient yourself describes, missing time, missing information, a lack of substance to your recollection about the events in Italy. It also remarks on physical symptoms related with a dissociative disorder. The psychiatrist believes that you do remember, but your mind is protecting itself from something that happened. And that is possible in connection to apparent surgery that you had undergone. And it says to see surgical notes from another physician.
She'll look and see if those surgical notes are there.
And they are. You leaf through and there's an X-ray. It's very low quality, probably experimental at this time. And there's a note in white paint circling something on this image. And then you flip through and you see patient implanted with device ? Could be project. And then there's a huge black line of redaction.
Is this a photocopied piece of information, or is this the actual file that's been redacted with a marker?
This appears to be the original file.
Can Maggie try and hold it up to the light to see if she can make out the original? Because these would have been typewritten, right?
Mm-hmm.
She can see the original imprint of the lettering from the typewriter.
Okay, so let's make a roll to see how successful this would be. Do you have a spycraft related skill?
I don't think I do. No, not specifically. No, I mean, unless you want me to use something like intelligence or spot hidden.
I'll take spot hidden again.
Oh, that's a fail. Can I
Okay.
push?
Yep, you can push it.
That's success, but I don't think it's enough.
Yeah, unfortunately that is not enough. So you try and see, but this is a thick black line. You run your fingers over it and try and reverse engineer it as if it's some kind of braille. But you end up just smudging the ink that's on this page and kind of damaging it a small amount. But you are unable to glean any more information.
She'll, just reading it, turn to Rhonda and OB and go, they knew. They knew and they didn't tell me. She just...
After everything we've learned, I'm not sure we should be surprised, Maggie.
Can we see any indentations? Like, is this a typewritten note or is this a handwritten?
The piece of paper that Maggie currently has was typewritten.
Okay. Are there any raises on the back from the typewriter head hitting the paper? Kind of pushing
You saw
the
that Maggie attempted to see if there were. You are welcome to also make the same.
All right, what I'd like to do is the old telephone booth trick where when the people are writing down the telephone number, take a piece of paper, put it light, and take a pencil and do a light rubbing over it that way. It'll be the inverse image, but we can always turn it around in the mirror.
Okay, so unless you can suggest some other skill, I'm going to ask you to roll intelligence for this.
Okay, I do have spot hidden, so I could do that if you want it, but intelligence is fine. Okay.
Okay, so you attempt and you get a light rubbing. There's kind of like 1 or 2 letters there, but not enough to really generate, and you're afraid if you push any harder, you will just end up damaging that imprint.
I'll just push it back into the paper. That's not going to do him any good.
Maggie, kind of frustration, kind of just chucks the file onto the bed and the papers scatter, and she goes over to the notebooks that are in the box.
And you'd forgotten about these notebooks. They'd been stored away for you after you'd returned from Salem, having finished your basic analysis on them. Another case had come up, and then another, and you'd never returned to them. But you see here, there's about 50% of the total journals that you collected. These are the ones towards the end of the journaling career of this woman, the most recent.
She picks up what would probably be the last one in that series and flicks through the pages, hoping that something jumps out. Like they had done before at the house where Chris's name had been mentioned, and just looking more towards the back of it. And in her mind, this is if those documents won't show me what's important, then maybe this will. Maybe something will make sense now. She's just desperately looking for something.
Perfect. I'd like you to make a power roll for me, please.
Ooh. That's a fail.
Okay. Would you like to push it?
Yes.
What about pushing mine?
Okay.
No. That's also a fail.
Okay, you begin turning each page in an even rhythm, taking in the information, and then you turn the book up on end and you scroll through, hoping it'll be a flicker and you'll be able to follow a pattern. You see familiar things. You see the Wheel of Fortune. You see the Tower. You see other cards that are mentioned, small notes that this woman made that you recall. But you see no pattern in it, and you slowly develop this terrible migraine as you squint hard. You open your eyes and try and use peripheral. Every trick you can think of to decipher reading, but there is nothing, and you do develop this headache.
Maggie just, in frustration, in this almost slightly manic, like is how she's feeling, that she needs something, anything right now, and in frustration just kind of throws that to the floor as well, and just head in hands, both for the headache and the fact that she is crying, and she's just like, I need Chris. I need Chris to look at these. Chris would know what to do. This would make sense to Chris. But I shot Chris, and she's just like internalizing everything now, but out loud.
And as you do that, with your failed power roll, Maggie Davis falls limp, quietly chanting and crying to herself, Chris, I need Chris. And Maggie, the pain in your head moves to a pain in your leg. You find yourself in a 6'5" body, sprawled out in the back of an FBI truck. Your pain is extreme. All rolls made while in Chris's body are going to be one step harder than they would be for Maggie.
I guess in that moment, for a minute, she doesn't realize that she is in Chris's body, and she just screams at this sudden pain. It's like her headache has shifted and is suddenly this burning in the back of her thigh.
Robert, you have just passed the Welcome to Las Vegas sign. The bright lights of the strip sprawl down in front of you, and there is this almighty scream from the back of the car.
It gets him by surprise. There's this swerve as he almost drives into someone on the other side. Gets it right again. It's like, Chris, you okay?
He is okay. Oh my god, he's okay. He's alive. I'm alive. I'm not Chris. And she's having this, she's still trying to get out of that internalizing. And she's like, Robert, oh my god, you're okay. Everyone. She looks round and she's talking as if she's her in this moment, not even thinking about trying to be Chris.
Robert replies, yeah, we're okay. And it's not the weirdest thing that Chris has ever said to Robert. So.
Betty is fixed on Chris. Because she knows there's not Chris in there.
Robert, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to hold you at gunpoint, and I didn't mean to shoot Chris, and I don't even know how did I get here? Why am I Chris?
Dottie reaches out a hand and kind of strokes Chris's head. Poor thing, so much blood loss. Don't worry, Chris, we'll look after you. Robert, why aren't we going to a hospital?
No, I don't need a hospital. Chris needs a hospital. I don't need a hospital. Captain, this will make sense to you. I was in a hotel room 30 seconds ago with Rhonda.
Without saying anything, Robert pulls the car over, stops, turns round as fully as he can in his seat, and asks, "What did you say?"
30 seconds ago, I was in a hotel room with Dr. Nash, and I needed Chris. I needed Chris to look over things. And now I am here, and presumably he is there.
Who is here?
It's me. It's Maggie. Captain, I was in the body of the agent that got you on your knees. I was in the body of the agent that shot Chris. I didn't mean to.
No, honey, you were shot. It's okay.
I just look at Betty like, what the fuck is this?
Is this your wife?
Betty's face is very intense at this moment, and she kind of floats on over to Chris. Maggie, is that you?
She reaches out for a second to touch you, remembering vaguely that hazy moment when you were in her cell, and says, "This is just like when you came to visit me."
I remember.
I swear, I'm not Chris that's gone mad.
No, I know.
God, I hope Chris is where I was. Oh, he's going to be in some real pain.
Chris is all right.
I hope so. I
No,
mean,
Maggie, He's all right. And she gives this nod as in, I know where he is. Trust me.
He's going to be in a lot of pain. It really tore my arm up trying to get that cable out. It's a long story. Where are you heading?
Robert says to Betty, what? Sorry, are you Chris?
I'm not Chris. No, I'm Betty.
Dottie is just looking between all of you as if you've all lost your minds in a fever dream. And Greg, I would like you to make a truth roll for me on behalf of Maggie Davis. So you're going to use Chris's stat. Okay.
I will spend 4 luck points to make that a success.
Okay. Suddenly, Maggie, with the headache gone, your mind clears. And you focus on that pain. And you hear a whirring, a machination, and you realize slowly it's the chanting of numbers. It's a stream of sports results that plays in Chris's brain near constantly. And slowly you remember flicking through that book. And you see the tarot cards now, but you see them in order. The Tower. The King of Swords. And on and on. And you begin to see that these cards tell your story from Muddy Fields until now. That you bring pain to your team. That you were the strong leader that vanished. But you see, it all ends at that wheel of fortune. And that there are so many questions left. But that the author needs you to reach the wheel.
And she, in almost Chris-like fashion, begins mumbling that to herself over and over. The series of tarot cards, their numbers. The wheel, the wheel, the wheel. I need to reach the wheel. Gosh, is this what it's like in Chris's brain? This is incredible. Robert, where are you headed?
I wish I could say. I don't even know. I was going to head to your motel. Otherwise, I don't really have a plan.
We should do that. You should come and get me. Well, Chris. Presumably we'll be in the right places when you get there. I need to go somewhere. We're heading somewhere with a wheel.
Okay.
Don't worry. I think I'm crazy too at this point. You'll see when you get to the motel what I mean. Rhonda can fill you in.
Okay.
Maggie, you said you got here because you thought you needed Chris.
Yes. Do you remember the notebooks? The notebooks from the way back. Your first mission with us.
Robert pulls the car off again.
That house.
There are still a lot of things I don't remember. Or remember pieces of.
The time that you and Chris got in that ridiculous little bicycle thing. And the old woman, she disappeared in front of us. It's okay. It's okay.
Do you think that if you concentrate and think about your own body, you could maybe return there? And she's kind of saying that both to Maggie and to Chris.
I think so. You might want to strap his leg up. I shot him pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
And she kind of tries again to concentrate, that she needs to be back in her body. She needs to tell Rhonda that Robert and the rest of the crew and his family are on the way. We need to get ready.
Grim at your feet whimpers. Okay, team. What rolls would you like to make in the remaining time you're in this car before it pulls into the motel? You have approximately 5 minutes.
I mean, I'm good. I just want to cast there.
Okay.
If that requires a roll, then so be it. But
Nope, you're fine.
Maggie just wants to be back in her own body.
Okay.
I'm still pretty cool being a ghost. Look, it's the only time I've ever managed to successfully do anything. Don't at me.
Then you will arrive back at the motel unless, Greg, would you like to make any rolls as Bobby Jr., Chris?
No, he would just, while all this is going on, if he could reach down, he's going to reach into the pocket of Chris's jacket and pull out a piece of gum and put it in his mouth and chew a bit as he goes
And your
back to the
mother
equations.
is so distracted by the craziness around her. Her head is in her hand, and her forehead is pushed against the cool of the glass, and she's developing her own headache, trying to keep up with the insanity that is just unfurling around her. This is so far from anything Dottie has ever experienced.
Bobby Jr. would then stop for just a second. And maybe it's the rhythm that's in his head as opposed to just the numbers that's telling him to do something that he normally wouldn't. He stops and reaches into the pocket again and pulls out another stick of gum, touches Dottie on the hand, and says, "Here, Mama."
Oh, thank you, Bobby. And she would normally ask you where you got it, but she's so worrying, she just takes it, removes the foil, and hands you the foil to play with, and puts the stick of gum in her mouth. And you will pull into the parking lot at the motel. You can see the light on in the room on the second story. Robert, you know this room. That is where you saw Betty out on the fire escape. You can go in through the front door. You can go up the fire escape if you'd like, but you may all reassemble in this room. Do you take the front door or the fire escape?
Now that you say it, the fire escape.
Fire escape? Okay. Hold on, 2 seconds. Describe for me how you get up the fire escape, Maggie.
Am I still in Chris's body? It's a little bit of sheer force of will for her because, you know, she was the one that shot Chris, and it's so much as walking with the good leg and then pulling herself up with as much strength as she can muster as she tries to get used to this body that's much bigger and broader than hers, and she's almost a little uncomfortable in it. But it's just pulling herself along, trying to get up there because she needs to be back in her.
Mm-hmm. And you make it up this fire escape with effort, although Dottie will help as much as she can, although you are much larger than she is. She holds to Bobby Jr.'s hand, helping him up the fire escape. Betty, do you drift up or do you walk as if you were still corporeal?
I ghost up. Look, if I'm gonna be a ghost, I'm gonna do it ghost shit.
I always support ghost shit. And so you whoosh up the second story, and you can just go straight in through that back door. The door is no barrier to you. And Rhonda, this is what you will see a few minutes after Maggie passed out on the bed. Betty, but not entirely solid, and the sound of others climbing the fire escape behind her.
Rhonda has seen Betty in this form before, so oddly, it doesn't strike her as anything she should be too concerned about. As the others come in behind her, she's not violently shaking Maggie, but giving her, little jolts, trying to get her to come back to her.
Dr. Nash, we have Maggie.
And Chris's body awkwardly makes its way in through this door as Maggie's like, "Doctor, I'm fine. I'm here. It's like before." Oh Christ! Does my arm really look that bad?
Don't look at it, Chris. Don't.
Dr. Nash, in those few minutes, you'd deciphered that Maggie probably passed out from shock, and you were monitoring the heart rate to make sure it didn't drop or spike.
Wait, if I'm in Chris's body, where is Chris?
And the rest of the team come in through the door.
Perhaps we should take roll.
Robert walks in with his family kind of tucked under his arm, and then stays by the fire escape door. Peers out the window.
Question: did we bring Grim with us up into the hotel room?
He can climb stairs. He's family. He doesn't need to be told.
Mm-hmm. He might be a bit more family than we thought, huh?
He sits beside Robert in the inside, kind of panting and looking around. His tail wagging indecisively. It's not as violent as it had been when you first met him in the kitchen. So excited to see all of you.
Are the notebooks out?
Yes, they are all scattered over the spare bed that Maggie's body is not occupying. Oh no, it would be the one she's occupying. Around Maggie in the bed.
Bobby Jr. would start making his way over there, but first he would kneel down in front of Grim and wrap his arms around Grim's neck and put his lips against the big kind of floppy ear that's there and whisper, "Just keep watching me, Bobby Jr. I'll tell you what to do." And then he gets up and goes over to the notebooks.
And there's a slightly louder thud, thud, thud of Labrador tail hitting the ground. And Robert, you see your son make his way over to Maggie and the books on the bed.
Oh, but Bobby, what are you doing?
It's fine. There's nothing useful I can find in there anyway, other than telling me that everything I touch turns to hell and something about a wheel.
Dr. Nash follows Bobby over to the books and kind of crouches down next to him. "Hello, little one. My name is Rhonda. I'm friends with your daddy. You see
Dr.
something
Nash.
in those books?"
Give me a second, Dr. Nash.
Chris?
He gives an exaggerated wink.
Does Maggie see this?
How subtle were you being, Chris, Bobby Jr.?
Chris, who knows no subtlety, gave an exaggerated wink.
Oh,
So-
Chris Maggie would have seen this.
thank God.
I walk over to Captain Robert and try to pull him aside as best I can.
Mr. Dyer.
I don't know what kind of occultic satanic stuff you federal people are into now, but can someone tell me what the blue blazes is going on here? I'm seeing things that look like possession and astral projection and who knows what other evil crap may be going on. What are you guys doing?
If I could...
Do I need to get out my gun or do I need to start performing an exorcism?
Hey, sir, calm down. If I knew what was going on, I would tell you.
Well, I do know that you guys said something about a wheel or wheel of fortune or something like that. And that's the last words that came out of Jesse's mouth. It's something about the wheel is a fraud and the people are the wheel. I don't know if that has any connection with what you guys are doing, but something doesn't smell right to me either.
Does that make any sense to anybody?
The Wheel of Fortune. everything leads to the Wheel of Fortune. That's what determines the outcome of this. That's what all of those notebooks keep talking about. It's the card that the old woman associated with me from a case way back.
Charlie, as a local, would I know where the Wheel of Fortune would be?
You know there are a number of casinos with roulette wheels and with wheels of fortune, but the biggest Wheel of Fortune in Las Vegas at this time is housed in the small casino of Raging Waters.
Mr. Dyer, you spoke about the Raging Waters Casino.
Yeah, there's been some strange reports coming out of there lately. And after what just happened to Jesse tonight, it's got me even more worried.
Chris, Maggie, the largest Wheel of Fortune is Raging Waters.
And we need to go there. I mean, I need to be back in my body. This is all very confusing. I need to be back in me. Chris needs to be out of Bobby Jr. and back into this body.
Maggie, do you remember what happened right before you found yourself in Chris's body?
I just kept thinking about how I needed Chris to look at those notebooks.
And Chris, and she turns to Bobby Jr., do you remember where you were, what was going through your mind before you ended up here?
He puts his finger where he's reading in the notebook and looks up quickly. Yes. And he goes back to reading.
And Dottie is stood wide-eyed looking at the scene, wondering why in blue blazes anyone is calling her son Chris, why Robert isn't doing something. And all of the color has drained from her features, and she's wringing her hands to try and almost hide the shaking that is happening when she's not wringing them.
Yeah. Robert, at this point, I think, panics, and he asks, like, he says to Bobby Jr.'s body, like, he asks Chris, and then he just starts shouting and repeating, Bobby, where's Bobby? And, like, it's going into a minor panic around the room, looking at every single individual, asking where apart from the dog, where, like, who is his son?
Robert, we'll find him. We've found everyone else thus far, just we all need to remain calm.
What do you mean? Where is my son? That's my son! And Dottie, much like Robert, feeling that emotional intensity of her partner, just escalates and becomes a mess. And she rushes to her son and turns him around and almost shakes him to make sure he's real.
Just calm down, okay? The effects, this weird switching, it's not permanent. Wherever Bobby is, he won't have gone far. The effect is localized, it seems.
Ma'am, and I walk over, gently take her by the arm. Let me take you down the hall to my place. There's a bed. You can take one of the chairs, or you can lay down on the bed and rest for just a little bit. I know things are getting overwhelming, and I think you just might need a little bit of quiet for a little bit, if it's okay.
I'm not the hysterical one here. I'm not the one speaking madness. Look at these people. And she wrenches Bobby Jr.'s arm as she's charging towards the motel door room to try and take her son away from this craziness. Robert, I don't know what you're involved in, but I don't like it, and you will finish it and come back and we will forget any of this.
He actually, at this point, screams at Dorothy and yells and says, Dorothy, go outside.
And that kind of cuts into her hysteria, and she nods, and she goes out the door.
Before she would leave, Bobby Jr. would say, "It's okay, Mama, don't worry." And then he'd say, "Graham, go with Mama."
And Graham stands up and kind of looks between you all, and then trails out after Dottie.
I turn to Chris's body by mistake and start speaking to him, just asking him to Chris, get out of my... And then he turns to Bobby Jr. and basically is like, get out of my son's body. We're all here now. We don't need this.
I think I have to get out of Chris's first. I don't know if there's an order to this, Robert.
Well, you're unconscious, so you get back in your own damn body.
I'm trying. Okay. It's not like I wanted this to happen. It's just. And she'll sit
By
down.
accounts, you did. So will it again.
Dr. Nash goes over to Betty and says, Betty,
Mm-hmm.
you remember when you got in that plane and got it started?
Yes.
Do you think you can get into one of these too and maybe push things along?
I can certainly try. Let's try and get Maggie back into her body, shall we?
Maggie sits
The
down.
worst that could happen.
Maggie sits down next to herself, and she's still in a little bit of shock of quite how bad she looks at this moment, with the terrible dyed hair and this cut all the way up the length of her arm to her shoulder. And she closes Chris's eyes and tries to focus on being in her own body. But there is a little bit of her that's curious. Her consciousness isn't in a body that's got that strange tech in. And for a moment, as she's trying to remember what it's like to be in her own body, she tries to see if she can remember what actually happened in Italy, in that blank spot, while she's free of whatever had been implanted into her.
Okay. Betty, what are you doing to assist?
So as Chris sits on the bed and closes their eyes, Betty's just going to place her hands on top, because she knows that she'll just like phase through because she's incorporeal, but she's going to try and make as much ghost contact as she can and just try to, I don't know, like put some of her energy into that body to see if it can just help give Maggie that little push she needs to move out back into her own body.
Okay. Betty, make a power roll for me.
No, it's a fail. Wait, hang on. I have enough. I'll spend the 12 luck.
Okay. Spend the luck. A Sam chance for a push. You feel a strange energy around Maggie's body. And you push through it and you can see that thin blue line that had traced up her arm and around into her spine and up to her brain. And you can see too another line between this body and Chris's. And you push your energy and you ignite that blue line. And you can see in your own incorporeal being a faint blue glow grow. And out of instinct, you reach out your hand to touch the pale connection between Maggie and Chris. And you push your energy into it. Maggie, please make a power roll for me.
Success.
And because of Betty assisting you and Betty's success, we will push you back to a normal difficulty. And you concentrate. And luckily for you, you're concentrating on Chris just as Betty makes this connection. And then you drift to your own body. Sorry, you concentrating on yourself. And you drift to your own body. Chris's body crumples, folds to the ground. And Chris, please make me a power roll.
Chris doesn't want to return. Can I deliberately fail?
I still need you to... No, I still need you to make a power roll. If you succeed, you can decide what happens.
I'm gonna stay right where I am.
You feel a tug on you, a cooling back, a pull, but you resist and you push and you stay where you are. You hear beyond the door, the quiet whimpers of Dottie and Grim as they are confused and shut out from everything that is going on. And Dottie says, "Come on, Grim, let's just go sit in the car." And the dog takes the steps, 2 or 3 at a time, as it follows its mistress down the stairs to the car. And the team is assembled. And out over the Las Vegas sky, a ripple of thunder and a flash of lightning.
In that moment of the transfer, did Maggie remember anything?
You recall being in a dark, cold place. You recall Thomas telling you to relax, and the sharp piercing of a needle. You remember seeing a lot of images of the world flash before your eyes, but they weren't on a screen, they weren't being projected or photographs. It was as if something had taken control of your eyes and they were showing you things. You remember a searing pain of something hot in your arm, but nothing physical touched you. It was as if a beam of light had cut into you. And that sensation again of pain growing up your arm, into your spine, and into your brain. And then Thomas's voice. He said a lot of things to you. It was programming. Maggie knows about programming. She worked on a number of projects to do with it. The training of the mind, advanced interrogation techniques. This was that, but this was directly into your brain. And they'd used something to keep you connected.
I imagine that she recalls this in the few moments before she comes back to consciousness in her own body. And she sits up, and it's that headache again, and then the pain in her arm as she starts trying to dress herself, but can't put anything over it, so just ends up taking the sleeve off of her top. She's like, "We have to go," and then notices Chris's body still on the floor. Why is Chris not back in his body?
Did Betty feel Chris's resistance if she's trying to pull them both back?
I will say that you definitely felt a blockage. You kind of saw the pull, but then a stop to it. But you wouldn't know if that was someone actively resisting or it just didn't work.
She's just going to look at Chris. Well, Bobby Chris.
Maggie's gonna do the same and just, "Chris, you need to get back in your own body. I know I shot you, and I'm really sorry about that, and it really hurts. But that is not your body. You have to try. We have to bring Bobby Jr. back. We don't know where he's ended up."
Robert goes and gets Dottie from the hallway, brings her back indoors and into that room, and he says to her, "Barbie," and he points to Bobby's body, "does not leave this motel room unless this man wakes up and confirms who he is. If you have to restrain him, then do so. Can you do that?"
I think so.
For me, yeah.
What's wrong, Robert? What's going on?
I don't know, but we're gonna try and find out what that is. And he turns to Chris and Bobby Jr.'s body and says, "You either come with us in this body, or you're not going anywhere."
Captain, I need the music.
Chris, I don't know what the hell that means.
Your son has music in his mind. All the time. I needed to make my numbers work. It keeps time. Time. I'll keep him safe.
There's another peal of thunder, and the room illuminates again as lightning flashes. And Betty, you hear it in the back of your mind. You're not Maggie Davis. But you'll do. It is time. Come. And in your mind, Betty, you see an expanse of desert. And you see people gathered there, looking up to the sky and the storm clouds that roll over. And you see a spinning wheel laid horizontal, flat to the ground, around and around. Only on each of the small wedges, instead of a color, instead of a light, there lays a body, around and around. And a timer counts down to the moment when fortune will be decided. 15 minutes, 6 seconds remain on the clock. And all of their eyes snap open, bright blue, and they see you. Robert, you stare into the eyes of Chris, your son, and Chris. That music is playing. Sings you songs and melodies that make the numbers make sense.
It's the only way I can do it, Captain. Those notebooks, they got me once before. I couldn't do it.
We
But
have
your
to
son's
go.
very special.
Robert clearly has tears in his eyes, but he presses his nose to try and get rid of them. And then just quietly says, okay. Okay.
As Robert turns away, Maggie will go over to Chris in Bobby Jr.'s body and, kind of crouching down, will look him square in the eye and say, if anything happens to this kid, you will not want to be back in your own body, Chris. This is his boy. And stands up and goes to grab the jacket that she realizes she can't put on and just dumps it again, waiting by the door with Robert.
And Robert, Grim comes over to you and he sits at your feet and he rests his head across your shoes and looks up, sad, dark eyes.
Give him one last pet before we go.
And he leans against your legs, all of his weight. And then he looks over towards Dottie and Chris and moves over to them. You didn't have to tell him to go. He knew that he should leave and look after his mother, look after his owner, look after Chris.
When Bobby Jr., Chris, is alone after Maggie made that claim, he couldn't say it to her because he's still more Chris than Bobby, but he says it anyway to no one. I'll die before he does. And he picks up his rubber band gun.
Betty's been really quiet as she's processed what she's seen and heard. And as everybody's getting ready to get going, she just announces to the room, I saw it. I saw the wheel.
What wheel?
Where is it?
In the desert. There's the bodies all over it with bright blue eyes.
They all have angel eyes?
Like I have, I don't know anymore.
You think you could help us find it, Betty? Think you could lead us there?
I don't know. I can try. There's 15 minutes and 6 seconds. And she kind of looks at Chris Bobby when she says that.
Sounds like we'd better go.
And fast.
And you do, unless someone on the team wishes to stop you from leaving this motel room. Okay. You go, you load up into the car. Who is driving?
I would like to possess the car, or attempt to, in a similar way as I did with the thing. Because obviously, I'm a ghost. I can't drive it, but I figure if I'm in control, then
take control.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so make a power roll for me, please.
Extreme success.
Betty the love bug.
Betty
What was unbeatable?
zips from this room in a whoosh that you all feel as a light breeze that sends shivers down your spine and goose pimples across your flesh, and into the car, which revs in that parking lot, waiting for you all to move your corporeal bodies and butts down into it so that she can take you to where you need to be. And you load up and in and drive. And the voice returns to you, Betty. Yes, this is good. You figured it out. Interesting. Who are you?
She doesn't respond.
There's a growl from the engine as it finds more speed, more haste, and it tears through the strip. Doesn't care which lane it's in, just cares about going and being gone. And you see the lights dance, and in the rearview mirror, headlights. Someone is following you, and it dances through the lanes in the same pattern that you take, seconds behind. Agents. Someone is following you, and it is obvious from the growl that comes from the second vehicle. Someone is in pursuit. What does everyone do?
I'm the go machine.
You're the go machine. You're busy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Don't get me shot, else I'll be really upset. That's all I'm saying.
Think of that Italian sports car. Do the opposite of everything that happened to that.
Yeah.
Okay. Robert, what are you doing? Oh, sorry, Maggie. Yep.
That's what I was going to say. I imagine that Maggie is in the back where it's slightly more comfortable. So she'll draw her gun if she still has her one on her that she would have retrieved before leaving the hotel room, and just kind of shifts around in her seat and rests it up against a thing towards the back window in preparation.
Yep, you can do that. Do you have any trigger on which you will pull your trigger?
If gunshots get fired, or it tries to looks like it's going to try and ram us from behind.
Okay. Cool.
Dr. Nash
Robert.
wants to look and see if she could recognize any of these agents from when she was in Chris's body in Robert's house.
Okay. So we'll call this a spot hidden because it is nighttime and you were staring into the glare of headlights in the rear view. And with that success, you squint and you're not sure, but possibly the passenger, possibly he's familiar. And then he moves and you see that he is cradling an arm. And you remember, sprawled out on the driveway, having been struck by this very vehicle, one of the agents. That is the same man.
Robert, these men were at your house.
Great.
Do you know them? Did you know the men that were at your house?
No.
Maggie, you?
I didn't know any of them personally. I was in the body of one that Robert shot.
But none of them recognizable.
I was too busy trying to go after Chris and Betty.
Just wanted to make sure before we shot anyone dead that it wasn't someone that we knew personally.
I like these ethical standards.
Thank you.
Welcome.
And
Okay.
she'll take out her shotgun and kind of crouch down next to Maggie in the back of the car. She's at the ready as well.
Maggie will just give you the look of, like, there's a moment of like, you have a shotgun? You have a shotgun. You have a shotgun. It's just those stages that Maggie goes through of the, what? Oh, okay, we're doing this.
Before they do this, and I echo that sentiment posted by Sam, definitely married to Don, I would like to remind you all that you can interact with this game using the incentives down below. Bear that in mind as we dive into the last 15 minutes of this session. Shotgun at the ready, handgun in hand, Betty in the engine, Robert, Chris, Bobby, what are you up to?
I guess I'm just in the
Also-
driver's seat, not wondering what the hell I should do, because I'm in a car that is driving itself. Hands on the wheel, I'm just like, well, this is weird. Cool.
I imagine you watch as the vehicle kind of changes gear and the pedals shift at your feet.
Meanwhile, I keep a lookout, knowing how things were back in Kentucky dealing with things during the Prohibition times. Make sure that there's not someone following us on the other side to try to cross the T on us. While I get my revolver out and make sure it's fully loaded and everything.
Sure, make a spot hidden for me as you look for a second of vehicle.
Nope, don't see anything.
It's hard to tell, especially as Betty's actions are far from smooth in her direction of this vehicle. Split-second choices, diving between cars, lanes, lampposts, and the occasional pedestrian skittering out of the road, and then off-road, out across dirt, shifting uneven terrain. But that tail vehicle remains behind you. Chris, Bobby, are you up to anything with your rubber band gun?
It's loaded. Of course, the safety's on. He is
Very
doing
important.
math. Right. As one would. He is doing math now that he has the music to work with the math. For the first time in his life, he doesn't have that compulsion to follow every single that not the chaos of math, but the balance of math. With the music, it seems as if the math is leading him somewhere. He's not distracted. That constant and as it speeds up, he does, and as it quickens and slows, he follows this trail as he's working all the numbers of the 15 and 6, all the tarot cards that he had put together from the notebooks, and everything that he had gathered numerically from the beginning of their adventures until this very moment. He's taking into consideration everything, the position of the stars, the arrayment or the alignment of the planets, everything he can think of, but instead of getting diverted as he would in the past, Bobby Jr.'s metronome keeps him where he needs to be.
I'd like you to roll a truth roll for me, please.
Sure thing.
Oh, dear
And
God, use your advantage.
I know, I was just going to say, we just got an advantage. I'm going to use it. I've got this. I think, maybe. Not that one. Not that one, but I am going to spend because I'm going to spend 22 luck.
Okay. You spend
Make
that
that
luck.
fast.
And in your mind, a child-drawn image appears. And at the top, longitude and latitude written in another hand. A message from your mother, delivered by Dr. Nash. And you look at those coordinates, and you know that was where you found Betty. But you look at them again with fresh eyes and this fresh rhythm, and the numbers tick over, all of them by 15, and then each by 6. And a new coordinate presents itself. You do the maths, you look at the stars, and you realize that you are driving right towards the Wheel of Fortune. And you hear in your mind the tick, 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 even and steady, as Bobby Jr.'s musical love powers you to find the answer.
He would get down to both protect Bobby Jr. and to do the following. He places his hand on the well by the feet of everyone as he puts his cheek against the floor mat of the car, and he whispers the directions to Betty as she's in the car, because they make a great team.
The car in pursuit picks up pace as you all bounce across this terrible, uneven terrain, a terrain not made for cars, not these cars. And Betty, I would like you to make a power roll. And I would like everyone to roll an initiative just so I can keep an order of play.
That's a success.
Perfect. So initiative, I believe, is based on agility.
Yeah, we'll roll that.
Do I need to do initiative?
No. Well, actually, yes, because I just want this for an order of play, just so I can make sure everyone gets a 10.
Mm-hmm.
Is this, what do you mean, Dex?
Just a straight dex roll.
Yeah, Dex. Thank you.
Is this everyone?
Yep, everyone.
Ooh.
Ooh.
Hey, you're still cast.
I am. I have the roll 20 curse. It's okay.
Alright, so first up will be OB, followed by Robert, followed by Rhonda, followed by who's next? Betty, followed by Chris, and then finally the wonderful Maggie. So, OB, you hear that car picking up speed behind you, its approach growing nearer and nearer, and you hit a bank of dirt and the entire vehicle kind of bunny hops across it. And you land hard, and you look, and the car behind has done the identical maneuver. What do you do?
All right, I pull out my pearl-handled revolver, look back to see how much they're closing, and I start rolling the window down. I assume I'm sitting next to one of the windows.
Okay.
So I begin rolling it down so I can put my gun outside and be ready to fire if they get onto the side of us or if they start doing some other shenanigans.
Okay, so you would like to wait for them to be closer to shoot.
I will hold for that, and as I'm doing that, everyone appears to be saying something along the lines of "Untie my bow tie, who stole my Honda?" as I'm cranking the window down.
I like it. Alright, Robert. You're in the front seat. You can feel this vehicle is it wants to start winding. It wants to start moving more as it's on this terrain that it was not made for. Betty remains in control, and she remains driving it fast and furious. But the vehicle might not be able to handle what she is putting into it. And you see that vehicle moving up on you. What would you do?
Where's my drive? Hang on. It's not amazing. 45. Can I use navigate to try and shout like a a clearer path for Betty.
I like that idea, yes. That sounds very much in keeping.
All right.
Please do.
I'm going to save my advantage and regret it as soon as I click this. Hard success. Boom.
Success.
Thank you.
And so you begin picking out a better route, avoiding the small hills and divots, guiding Betty forwards. And as she changes direction, so you two adjust in your field of vision. And you will guide. Perfect. And up to Rhonda.
So Rhonda's really she's keeping her eye on the car behind, with the shotgun just aimed at the ready. Does she sense any changes, any movements aside from them just following?
They are keeping a very close tail. You can see the passenger and the driver are communicating, the passenger pointing to the vehicle in front, and the driver very concentrated in his actions behind the wheel.
She says, "Better you just keep driving. Maggie and I are holding down the fort back here." And she just holds.
All right. Betty, make another power roll for me, please.
All right. It's a fail, but I'm going to use my luck to make that not a fail.
Okay. Robert is guiding you, and Rhonda reassuring you. Chris has whispered the course that you need to take, and you push, and you can feel the cylinders are straining to keep pace with you now as you push this vehicle to be more than it should be. But you are powerful, and you do push this vehicle, and you stay in control, and it edges a little further away from that pursuing vehicle. Is there anything you would like to do with your power?
I don't see. Betty has no idea what she's even capable of. Like, this is it's just nuts enough as it is.
So far, you've been capable of everything you have tried.
Mm-hmm.
Which is strange and not how this is meant to work, but please carry on.
She just wants to keep this going. I'm trying to push this car as far as she can. Obviously she understands that machines do have a breaking point, so she's not going to try and like drive this car literally into the dirt, but she's going to try and just keep it as top and as hard as it can go. And she's just going to try to, like, especially if the car behind starts firing on them, she's going to try her absolute best to make sure her friends don't get hurt. So a little bit of evasive driving in there. And if they get real close, she's going to get aggressive.
With this focus in mind, there's a rumble of thunder which shakes the entire car, and the lightning kicks down behind you and in front of you, a twin fork of power on either side. And it's bright and it's blinding. For those of you gazing behind at the vehicle, you were all briefly blinded by this flash. And Robert, as you look forward, so too are you. And then you emerge right at the edge of a cliff that drops down into a wide valley. And it is Chris's turn.
Would Chris have been able to figure out this elevation drop based on the numbers that he had been going through as far as the, is there a topography element to the coordinates that he was given?
I will let you make a crypto roll if you'd like.
Sure. Just a success.
Okay. And you realize, as those lightning bolts hit the ground on either side of this vehicle, up ahead, the ground is about to drop away. It was the light that told you. It was the truth that you saw. 15 minutes and 6 seconds, you've been counting it down in your mind. 5 minutes and 26 seconds to go.
he would scream to Betty into the floor mat, "Left! Break!"
Maggie, before we go to the top of the round, top of the initiative, are there any actions you would like to take in these few moments? This is before you've hit the cliff edge. This will be simultaneous, basically, to those guys.
The car is still following behind us, right?
Correct.
Well, Maggie saw what they did at the house and how, there was no remorse from these agents. They were willing to do whatever it took to take everyone in. So she will let off a couple of the shots in to the wheels of the car in the hopes that they skid as we brake and move out of the way. And hopefully it's enough to make sure they're not a problem for us anymore. She'll just unload what she can in the time she has.
So technically they are within 10 feet of you, so I will allow you to fan the hammer, so to speak, if you would like. And you may take your shots.
How many do I make?
I think you have 6 in your gun, right?
Yeah, I think that's what it was last time.
3. People just waved 3 at me, so 3 it is.
3 it is. Where is handguns? Here we go. This is where I miss all of them this time round. Fail. Hard success.
Okay.
And another fail.
So your shots, the first one destroys the windscreen behind you in a hailstorm of glass that tinkles and crackles. The second, you narrow your eyes and through the wind it stings and that lightning, but you remember where they were behind those dots and you hear as the bullet just goes straight into that wheel and it blows out with the speed this vehicle is going at. The second shot disappears out into the night, but this will bring us to the top. And I just want Betty to make a drive roll for me.
Okay. That's going to be really bad, I hope you all know. Like, this is...
Is there any way in the driver's seat I can lend assistance?
Yes, I will let you... All of your actions will give Betty advantage on this as she knows what is coming up.
Okay.
I'll do what Chris has said.
Okay, I'm going to spend my last 5 luck to make that a success.
Okay. And it is pure luck as you screech to a halt and the vehicle slides, but part of it hits a rock, a boulder, something substantial, and it bucks it, and it just kicks you around, and you sit at the edge of this cliff as that second car runs. Roll for me, because I don't have a sheet.
I'm sorry, you broke up a little bit. Make a what roll?
Roll a luck roll.
Luck roll. Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh no, which is where? Oh, I see it now. Gotcha.
Yep.
Got it.
And the car, in pursuit of you, sails up and off of this cliff edge as if it were a ramp and out into the night. And you hear the descent and the crack and the crunch of metal as it lands down in the valley and continues to skid and then tumble as it capsizes and rolls. Chris, 5 minutes, 15 seconds now that your car is at a halt at the top of this cliff. Down below, lightning is spiking the ground over and over as if the sky itself is viciously angry with this tiny valley in the desert.
He pulls himself up and looks out the window to see if he can see are they close enough to see the coordinate location?
You squint out into the night and you can see it, that tiny spot, and as you squint, a bright blue light erupts from there. This glow of blue. Yes, Betty, you are very close. Keep going. A voice taunts you in the back of your mind, Betty.
Okay, so as I mentioned in the Zoom chat, I have an idea. It's not a great idea, but it's an idea. Betty is going to recall where she managed to project herself almost in like a teleport kind of manner. And she's going to try and see if she can do that with the car and everybody inside it to get us to the destination in time.
I love this idea. This will be a hard power roll.
Okay. Well, thankfully, I do have an advantage, so I would just like to invoke that.
Before you roll it, before you hit that button, I'm going to allow everyone here to tell me one thing they are doing in this vehicle before Betty makes this attempt. All of this is happening simultaneously. Betty is formulating this idea. She's bringing the power into herself. So let's go around. OB, you're top of my initiative. What is OB doing as your car has hit a halt?
Well, right at the time the car hit the halt, I had reached for my prayer oil and anointed both of the sights on my gun so I could be ready. But then I see where we are right now, and right now, for lack of anything better, OB has gotten off the car seat and he's hit his knees, so to speak, and he's thanking the good Lord that they didn't go over that cliff, and is saying, "What do we do now, Lord? What do we do now? How do we get there? How do we get there?"
I would like you to make a power roll for me, please.
I'm suspecting that I know where they took Jesse.
Now, for every success, Betty, you gain a point of luck.
All right, there's a success.
Okay, so you gain 1 point of luck.
Prayer and fasting comes in handy.
All right. Robert, you are in the driving seat. You've spun around. You are currently facing back towards Las Vegas. And you've seen the car sail past you and heard terrible crunch and crumble as it's gone off and down into the valley.
Robert just looks around, checking if everyone is okay.
You look, and everyone seems to have clung to their places in the vehicle. By luck, by willpower, they remain as they are. Even small Bobby Jr. with rubber band gun in hand, chanting numbers.
Do you need a power roll from me?
Would you say anything to your team? Did you see that they are okay?
I don't think so. He's just so kind of along for the ride and unsure of himself, which is very strange for the captain. But he's just checking, just making eye contact with everyone individually.
Okay. Make a power roll for me.
Should I use my advantage, folks? Yeah. Okay. I'm using my advantage. Extreme!
Betty, you gain 2 points of luck from Robert, who bolsters the morale of the crew in the car as you face the conclusion of this journey. Rhonda, anything you would like to do in this moment?
Yeah, so Rhonda, despite recent appearances, is not a fighter by nature. So once the car that had been following them has gone off the cliff, she sets the shotgun down and she's kind of catching her breath. She had steadied herself and was inspired by Maggie's courage, but that's not who she typically is. And so she sets the shotgun down and pulls the flask out of her pocket and then offers it to Maggie.
Oh, Maggie will take some.
And Maggie, you take your swig, and we'll come back to Chris in a second. We'll just let Maggie take this go. What do you do in this last moment?
As Maggie kind of takes the flask from Rhonda, and she takes probably about as big and long as a sip as the doctor did. And in that moment, her mind is racing with everything that she has just found out. The idea that perhaps she has brought this upon her team. The thought of this wheel and what might mean. And it's all kind of almost in a very Chris-like fashion. She was in his body and somewhere shared bits of his mind in that experience. It's just going round and round as she tries to make sense of it.
Okay, I would like you both to make power checks, please.
Yeah, it's the flask.
So it's another point of success from each of your teammates. And finally, Chris, you can feel it. You can feel the presence of the truth here as Betty is readying. And each of your team takes stock. What do you do?
He's going to give Betty as much of his power as he can. He knows what needs to be done now, and with Bobby Jr.'s music, he's able to focus more than he ever has. So, Charlie, what I would like to do is, using the powers that he has, I would like to give 20 of my sanity points, if you allow me to spend them, however you want to convert them, for Betty's use. And then Bobby Jr., Chris, from his position on the floor, would look under the seat and he would see that one of the agents, presumably, had discarded something, and his eyes would widen, the eyes of a child, not of Chris Brubaker. Almost as if Chris saw cards, but these eyes see something just as valuable to the mind that used to inhabit this body. And he pulls forth the hat, and he looks at it, and he sits in the back of the seat, and with a flourish, he lifts it above his head. 3, 3, 4, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And he puts it on.
Make a power roll for me.
You've got to let him have the fucking sanity for that.
Hold on. I need the power roll first.
75 out of 75.
Alright. Betty, from Chris, you feel a surge. Another presence in the vehicle with you. More power. More support. Chris is doing the maths. The trajectory, the angle, the distance, the speed, the force, energy into matter, matter into energy. All of these mathematical equations surge through you in abstract. You gain the 20 plus points of luck for your roll. But Chris, you find yourself in a stately home, far away from the desert of Las Vegas. You sit at the end of a bed, looking at a woman who smiles at you. I always knew you'd find a way home. Where are your cards, Chris?
I lost them, Mama.
That's all right. We'll find you some more. There's always more cards. And we cut back to Las Vegas. To this tiny car in the middle of a large desert. Betty, make your roll, please.
Oh boy. Okay. I mean, I have the advantage.
Okay.
I'll take that hard success.
You can spend your luck to make that an extreme success.
I mean, why not?
Okay. It's a strange sensation when all of what you are is torn apart and scattered in a howling gale of wrathful elements. And then reformulated, reborn and rebirthed somewhere else, another point in time, another form. For the briefest of moments, you are all one. One Skychaser, soaring through the storm to the heart of this desert. And you ride the wheel around and around, blurring and mixing. And then you were there, stood in the middle of a hangar. 15 eyes, or pairs of eyes, look upon you, all bright blue, out of the darkness. And they whisper. And their whispers grow and rumble into a roar of a crowd. Millions of voices, billions of voices. It's nearly deafening. And you blink, and they are gone. You stand in the middle of the desert, and from the sky, a wide beam of blue light spreads with you at its focal point. And you feel a pull. Running through the darkness towards you, 4 battered and bruised agents, the last of which, the familiar Adam Flint. I knew it! I knew they'd lead us here! Quick! Quick! Into the light! And then there is silence, and the strike of lightning, and you were all gone. Flint looks around, turns on the spot, looks to the scorched earth before him, looks to the sky and howls. It's inhuman and strange. And he screams, and then he begs. Please, I just need you to come back. I just need you to take me. I can't be trapped here. But his voice fades. And before you is a girl with blonde hair and blue eyes and a flower crown. And she smiles. And you look down, and beneath you there is nothing. Just a void of space and twinkling lights and stars. And the desert and Las Vegas and all the other places you have traveled in this time together. Y'all have a choice, you know, about where you go now. I'm not sure why they chose you, but they did. We can give you everything. Everything you need to know about this little place. Or we can give you something else. And her eyes turn out. He called me Eve, you know. First woman. I was the first of our kind. To die. Like that. To die. Violently. We never really stood violence until then. Till we felt it. You've all felt it in some way, haven't you? You'll know that tiny part that you're all capable of as well. Where do you want to go? Maggie, OB, Dr. Nash, Betty, Robert. You stand here in this strange space with this girl in a flower crown. You know you have to make a choice, and quickly. What do you decide?
Betty is very quiet as she thinks, but she looks at this woman and says, I would like to stay with you. If I can. I don't really remember my life, but I have the feeling that I didn't really have one. I don't think there's anyone waiting for me back down there.
She nods. And then Betty is gone. It happens so quickly.
Obi looks at her. 2 questions. Are you the Gwendolyn that I saw down in the city? Or are you someone else?
I'm someone else. But I know her.
And 2, this destination. If it's heaven as I know it, of course I'm going to want to go, but if it's not, then I need to go back to make sure the people I'm trying to help can make it there.
You decide where you go.
Well, if it is heaven, I already know I'm going there. But I want to make sure I bring people with me, so with all due respect, I'll go back.
And she pauses and she smiles. And you feel a soft hand on your shoulder and a kiss on your cheek and the smell of Gwendolyn's perfume. And then you stand down on the strip in Vegas, disappeared from this strange place between places. Maggie.
Maggie looks at her and says, "Yours was the first voice I heard back in that morgue, where I knew I wasn't going crazy. I'm done with all of this. I just want to go back home. I want to go back to her, if you know what I mean. Her and my family, and I want to leave this behind. Can I just go back?"
And she looks sad, sympathetic, and gives a long, slow nod. And as her head dips, so you two fade from this place. Maggie, where do you stand?
She is outside the house of a woman that she once loved and had to leave because there was too much danger, too many secrets. And she goes to knock on the door.
And as you knock on the door, there's a strange sensation in your stomach of butterflies and anticipation and hope. And the door is answered by a familiar face. And it's just as you remember. And you are back where you were, where you wanted to be. And as you look at your clothes, they are as they were then. Rhonda, Robert, you are the two that remain. And she turns to the pair of you. 15 minutes and 8 seconds. Every time we change a little thing, it adds. We try to fix it. 15 minutes is a long time to fix. I'm sorry for what you went through. And I'm sorry it didn't make a whole lot of sense. The thing is, all of you together, we needed a pilot and a navigator. We needed the one that believed. We needed the one that understood, and the one that knew the way. We needed the one that had a part of us in them. Where do you want to go? What do you want to know?
If there's anything this journey has taught me, it's that there's more out there to be discovered. I've been running from my home because I thought there was nothing there for me. But now I know my father did not die of natural causes, and my mother needs my help. She looks at Robert and takes his hand, says, "Good luck with everything, Captain Dabrowski. And if you need me, y'all can find me in Macon, Georgia." And she looks back to the blonde girl and kind of lowers her head.
And she nods. And you two fizzle away from this place. You find yourself in a familiar kitchen. Robert, you are the last to make your choice. Where do you want to go, and what do you want to know?
Who are you?
We're travelers. We look around, kind of curious folk. Sometimes we stick our noses into things we shouldn't. Sometimes we make a mess and try to put it right and make it more wrong. Kind of like you, but we're made different. I have a friend who saw you once, flying. Saw you were in trouble. They'd seen a lot of people die. And for just a moment they thought they could fix it and keep someone from dying. 'Cause that's it for you. When you die, you're dead, and it's cold and it's empty. At least that's how we understood it then.
I thought so. Dorothy. Bobby.
And she smiles. He took me to the pictures once. There's no place like home. She smiles. You'll find more answers, Captain. But I can't promise you'll know what to do with them. And she takes a breath. And you fade. Your home is dark. And you can hear the crooning of the record player upstairs. The tick-tock of a clock on the wall. Grim pads in and looks up at you, sleepy-eyed. His tail wags lazily. On the counter, a lemon drizzle cake, uncut. Perfect, with small iced flowers. And that is where we will leave our Skychasers, as they go to the places they wanted to go, and are with the people they wanted to be with. Las Vegas police got an interesting report. Bodies found in the desert. arranged in a way they couldn't quite explain, was chalked up to a mob hit and filed away deep in the FBI's intelligence banks. In 2001, they began to catalogue these old files. A lot of them have been destroyed during Watergate, during the intelligence crisis, during the government cover-up of many, many conspiracies. But this paperwork is found, and they describe a wheel made of bodies. They describe an FBI team that went missing around the same time. And the agent is curious. Whatever happened to that team? Typing into the databases, they find Dr. Rhonda Nash. Now, just Dr. Nash. Then, Rhonda Nash. As she changed her name and occupation, slowly obscured who she was, taking care of an elderly mother, and living her life away from the FBI as best she could. They search for Betty Thomas and find an earlier report, missing, presumed dead, in muddy fields. And then Agent Davis. Unknown, redacted, unknown. Over and over, they try every trick. They search every database, fingerprints. It becomes an obsession for this person. They find only a box with a single journal in that details tarot cards and makes no sense to them. Captain Dabrowski is easier to find. What is more interesting to this person is how Captain Dabrowski tried for the space program and was rejected, and raised a son, Robert Jr., who lived a very, very interesting life. Chris Brubank never appeared, but his file simply says institutionalized, medical protection. But the trail turns cold. Obie Dyer is not accounted for in these files. He's not an agent. No one knows that he was there or his part. But the strip in Vegas, if you'd know the right street to go down, a little way around the back, there is a plaque on a building from the 1950s dedicated to the work of Oscar Beauregard Dyer, guardian of those that walk the strip. And I'd like to go around and thank all of our cast and crew. I know that, Greg, you have a very important event to get to, so I won't hold you any longer. And we will leave all of you there.
Fantastic. Yeah, let's talk take us around. I've got to go ahead for a few minutes, Charlie, so go right ahead.
Okay, cool. So let's go around. On my screen, at least, let's hop to Susie first. How are you doing, friend?
Oof, what a story. Dang. Wow. That was nuts. When we started, I had no idea that's kind of where it would end up. I had no idea what was in store for us, or what a great story that we would all make together. Thank you, Charlie. You are a narrative wizard, evil genius, and just all-around fantastic GM. And my lovely friends here, thank you so much for playing with me. Your characters were amazing. I feel so bad that Betsy never got to say goodbye. Like, she just went, but she did love them all very much, as though she didn't really remember them, but she remembered that she felt affection for them. But yeah, so I'm Susie, otherwise known as Susanna Grace. I'm a variety streamer who does video games, art streams, and tabletop RPGs. You can find me all over the internet at Susanna Grace, and starting September 4th, you'll be able to find me on Encounter Roleplay, where I will be GMing Zweihander in a campaign called The Broken Crown.
And Edelyn, how are you doing, friend?
This was absolutely incredible. Charlie, thank you so much for the opportunity, first of all, for asking me to be a part of this, and then for weaving us such an incredible, beautiful story. Thank you all for playing along. It's been a couple months. It's been a great couple of months. And for everybody in chat who's continued to, come and see us week after week, thank you for going along this journey with us. It's just really been such an amazing experience, and I'm so grateful for it. So thank you. I am Edelyn Parker on Twitter, so come by and say hello. I hope to see y'all again soon.
Hope to see you again soon with our little one-shot conspiracy that we have going on. I'm going to make this a thing. I've decided. I'm sorry, Greg. It's decided. But before we get to that, and I use and abuse Dear Greg's channel for more maniacal creations. Sam, difficult session for Captain Robert.
Oh man, and for me, those feels. Oh, it's just awesome. Yeah, still a little shell-shocked by it. So
I love that you wrote, "I'm so mad" when Chris would not give back Bobby's body.
I was just like, no, I'm going to be that player. I'm going to be like, nope, you're staying here, or you do what I tell you. But it was a nice moment after that, so it was cool. I am Sam. I'm head of RPG development at Medicus Entertainment, and I'm one half Black Cats Gaming. You can follow me around the internet at RPG Webby, pretty much anywhere. And on Thursday, if you like the juicy fruits on like these this evening, on Thursdays we play a Game of Thrones game called After the Fire. It's about being after the Blackfire Rebellion. And these lovely people, most of them here, are involved in some capacity. And we will be exploring their stories every Thursday for about 12 to 15 sessions this season. It's good.
And if you like spies, go and check out the spy game, which will be in beta soon.
Yeah, I was literally writing it today.
Beta soon. Keep an eye out for that. And V, co-conspirator on many things.
Yes.
How are you doing?
I'm doing good. That was amazing. Charlie, you're incredible. It's been really fun playing with everyone. I hope we get to do this again in that one-shot conspiracy. That was a great ending for Maggie, I think, because by the time that she'd kind of broken, not necessarily kind of sanity-wise, but just in herself, like having the end where she just gets to go back and just walk away from it is so great. I couldn't have hoped for a better ending for her. I'm surprised she made it this far.
I mean, there was some serious help from chat, I think, for Maggie to make it to this moment. And so shout out to all of you for all of your help and support during this.
Yeah.
And where can we find you and all that good stuff?
You can find me on Twitter at Tabletop Horde. I've got a pinned tweet with my schedule and kind of stuff that I'm working on. Coming up soon, I'm going to be on Red Moon Roleplaying's Descent into Avernus podcast, which is, I think, first episode's out September 18th. But I'm also on After the Fire with Sam, Charlie, and Susie. And I'm going to be DMing Judge Dredd on Encounter Roleplay, which is going to be great, where my players play the worst judges sent to the worst mega block in the city on a new community policing initiative. It's going to be fun.
Who's the law? Use the law. I still really need to watch that movie before I play that game. But diving around, I want to say a massive thank you to Hawkeye for joining us again today, and thank you so much for being a guest. I will take this moment to also shout out Mal, who was an incredible guest earlier in the season. Many mysteries remain around our guests, but how was that for you, and where can we find you and all of that good stuff?
Oh, this was a great experience being with all of these people and just being able to be a small part of this whole entire adventure. It was a great time. OB is definitely inspired to keep on going, rescuing people after seeing what, after all of the shenanigans going on with this crew and all that and everything. I can be found on my Twitch channel. I have my different game streamings going. I have my Lego stream on Tuesdays. Thursdays is my weekly Skyrim serial. On Monday night, at least for one more Monday night, I'll be doing the Star Trek thing with Greg and some of the others on his channel with our continuing mission with the USS Athena, where I'm playing a Trill science officer who's about to go on a possible suicide mission, the way it's being described and all that. So it should be interesting to see how me and my symbiote hold out from there. I'm also part of a new stream starting up on Fellowship of the Table, where we're doing Rise of the Rune Lord, which is actually a Pathfinder module that the DM has converted to D&D. So it's going to be fun to see how that one plays out, where I'm playing a bright, young, fresh paladin there. And then on Friday nights, I'm in a group on Rule Zero Gaming, where I have a cleric who's joined up with a couple of others and all that, where we're starting where we've just had an interesting battle against some plant-like creatures, and now we got to go see if we can nip the plant in the bud once and for all. So otherwise, Cancer Cleric by day, RPG fanboy by night, and it's been an honor and privilege to be with all of y'all.
And it has been great to have you, and I really enjoyed hearing about your project earlier, and hope that we can help you out on that in any way we can. Let us know. I do want to apologize for laughing throughout your outro, but green screen chat is being very naughty, and I will see you all in my office after we're off air. Greg. Dearest, darlingest Greg. How you doing?
Oh, I thought that was directed at me. Like, we'll see you about Greg. I was just part of it. I wasn't really well, yeah, kind of. Well, we were there. This was fantastic. This was so much fun. I loved it from the jump. I loved it. When I would get the names to put on Twitch of what the episodes were, I'd giggle. I'd be, and I'd write them down and type them in. And I loved every part of this. Super duper fun. Just an absolute joy to play with everybody that you see around here. A shout out to my man Mal, who we were just saying how dead Harvey is in the chat, and that's our theory that he's super dead. And also a shout out to Matt for our silver tongue reverend, who would come in and give us those cryptic messages that were oh so delicious whenever we would get those in our travels or just out of the blue.
I was about to actually shout Matt out for my part. Just 100% thank you, Matt. I would love to hear one last final golden hour report now that we do know how this ends, because I remember for last week Matt was like, what do you want for the finale? I'm like, I have no idea what's going to happen. Maybe something like this, I don't know. And we got an amazing piece, but if there are any more words, please do share those with us. I'd love to have that and to share. Sorry, Greg, please.
No, absolutely. I too want the same thing. But anyway, I hope that our conspiracy theory follows through. I would love to advance it by a few decades and do a little bit more dancing would be fun. Grimjack21502 on the Twitter, part of the Tales from the Grim team here on the Twitch. We have the aforementioned Star Trek tomorrow at 9 p.m. Eastern. We have May Black Roses Bloom, DM'd by the incomparable Donathan Fry, on Wednesday at 8 p.m. And then fun things are afoot, as my long-form campaign, The Realms Remembered, will be beginning soon, as will the long-form community event that we have beginning mid-September, where members of the community will play themselves using the Outbreak Undead character generation engine to see exactly what you, yourself, would stat out in a zombie apocalypse. You then play yourself as I try to kill you. It's fun, believe it or not, and we'll see who survives. That's this fall. We also have a Western coming up and a podcast. But in all of that, more information will be forthcoming. Back to you, Charlie, who I cannot thank enough for bringing the world of Skychasers to both my life and this channel. It will be remembered fondly and forever.
Oh, thank you. I had the most fun. This for me is just hanging out with most of my very best friends on a Sunday. So, I mean, I could just do a cramming a few more people in and it would be just perfect. But an amazing crew. I am so grateful to all of you for agreeing to come on this adventure, for all of your creative energy that you've poured into this, and to chat for your creative energy too. You've been amazing. You can find me at at Frost from Fire. That's a mood. At Frost from Fire, Lost in Space, I was gonna say, and I was like, new branding. Frost from Fire on the Twitters. I am the Twitch director over on Encounter Roleplay. We have a brand new season coming up, starting the first week of September, where you can find a lot of these spaces and a lot of other ones playing some super cool games. You can find me on Thursdays in RPG Webbies After the Fire. You can find me over on a Holly Tales channel on Mondays playing Mistborn, on every other Saturday playing Undead Metropolis. I will be posting a new pin tweet very soon with my updated schedule. One last thing I would like to shout out is the Lost Girls podcast. If you like vampires and you like a bit of drama, a bit of smooching, and a bit of Susie exploding people's heads, come and join us. Check that out at New Vampsterdam on the Twitters. Vampires in the 80s. It's a lot of fun, and we just did a new recording, so that was cool. And yeah, I am gonna keep working my ass off to come and play here on Tales from the Grim, because the content is incredible. Greg does an amazing job on the tech, as well as just getting the cast and the community together. So you can only applaud that effort. Come and see us on May Black Roses Bloom this week. I'm in, I believe. Maybe, no, not this week. Not for the next 2 weeks. I'm back, that's right, in September. I just had a moment. I remember now. I remember what Don did to me. It's all coming back. But yes, I will wrap up and stop going on. Just thank you so much. It's been a lot of fun. Have a wonderful rest of your weekends and have a great Monday. I believe in you all. Make it a good Monday.
Fantastic. And everybody, Skychasers, one final round of applause for my dear, dear friends. So creative, full of stories. Follow them and continue your stories and continue the kindness. That is they. And as the campfire goes down, my friends, there's only one thing left to say. You can't always roll nat 20s, but you can always role play. And when you do, play with your friends. See you next time.